Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Live Leadership number 9. I'll say that again, number 19 that we're on right now. And I want to start with a quotation. The first person who will celebrate their 150th birthday has already been born. So said Aubrey de Grey. He's a longevity scientist. He put this out a couple of years ago. And of course, what message does that send about the workplace of the future? We'll come on to that later on. Today, we're going to be talking about workplace leadership across the generations, the idea that you've got many generations in the workplace, and that's only going to change to have even more generations as time goes on. So how do you lead in that kind of environment? My name's Gary Crosby. I'm an action coach, business coach in the home office this particular week. And the whole point of this series is simply to share with you some ideas and tips that I've got from my leadership journey, 31 years in the Royal Air Force, some time in the corporate world, and over the last 3 years as a business coach, helping business owners not just to look at the systems and processes in their business, but to help them with the transition from being someone who does a lot of stuff in the business to being the leader of the business. So let's have a look at workplace leadership across the generations. Going to start with another quote, right? This is a really interesting one. The youth of today, said this person, they love luxury. They've got bad manners and a contempt for authority. They have disrespect for their elders. That's a quote from Socrates in 500 BC. And this one from a regional newspaper. There is, as never before, said the paper, an attitude on the part of the young, which is best described as grossly thoughtless, rude, and utterly selfish. That was from the Hull Daily Mail in 1920. And what does that tell us? Every generation pans the generation before, and every generation says the youth of today is somehow lacking, and it's just a trend that we have. And those attitudes will, of course, go into the workplace with them as they move into that space. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the situation generally around generations, give you some knowledge so that you understand what they are and what that means. We'll have a look at a couple of opportunities and challenges for you as a leader in the business. And then we'll also share with you some leadership ideas, 6 ideas at the end of the presentation, where we are really just looking at how timeless leadership principles can still apply, regardless of how many generations you've got in the workplace. All right, so social generations have been around for a while, probably since the end of the 19th century, industrialization. We stopped kind of categorizing people in family trees and started to put them in groups of people who were born with roughly the sort of same date range, and therefore their cultural experiences were the same. That was as much to do with marketing things to them as anything else, but it led to this idea that there were generations of people. And you've probably heard things like baby boomer, Generation X, Generation Y, or the millennials, and Generation Z, and now coming up Generation Alpha after Generation Z. So those generations you will see in the workplace. But what I wanted to do was also just to have a think about things that are going to impact on the number of generations that you will have in your business as time goes forward. And the first one of these is something you can't do anything about, but it is life expectancy. All right. So if you were born in 1900, you could reasonably expect to live until you were about 48 on average. So what does that mean in the workplace? Well, there's only going to be 1 or maybe 2 generations in that workplace. Right now, life expectancy is in the high 80s, so 88, 89, something like that. And therefore, there are more generations in the workplace. And in a few years' time, 20 years' time, there's going to be life expectancy of around about 90, 91, 92, something like that. So you're going to have even more generations potentially in the workplace. And as a leader or a business owner, it's important to have a think about how you're going to lead in that kind of space. The next factor that's affecting the way the workplace is developing, of course, is societal change in general. I'd pick as the top one of those, the rate of change of technological advance. Okay, so technology is always advancing, but the speed at which it's advancing is changing as well. If you really want to scare yourself, read a book called The Singularity by Ray Kurzweil. He's a futurist. He says there's a point in the mid-2040s or so where the kind of technological advances that would have taken a century will take place in a week. Now imagine what that's going to do to the world and to the workplace when that kind of technological advance is taking place. Other things that are really important in people's attitudes in the workplace, different generations' attitudes in the workplace, global economic shifts, the financial crash of 2008, the kind of volatility in the crypto environment that we're seeing right now, much increased awareness of climate problems and issues, the way climate change is affecting the planet. People concerned about animal welfare, particularly in the food chain, people concerned about discrimination in the workplace, people really focused all the time now to, which I think is a great thing, on mental health awareness. That's really important to a lot of people right now. And of course, diversity in the workplace. So whereas that workplace of 1900 would have had very little diversity, right now as a leader, you've got ethnic diversity, you've got gender diversity, you've got sexual diversity, you've got all kinds of things that you're going to have to consider as a leader as the workplace develops. So lots of things going on out there that are going to influence the way you lead in the generations. So let's have a look at what those generations are. So the first one that you've probably seen in the workplace still right now is the baby boomers. Okay, they were born between the end of the Second World War and kind of the mid-60s, 1965. So they're about mid-50s to mid-70s now in the workplace. These people are focused on conformity. They're happy to comply with the rules. They like a little bit of discipline. They're happy to take responsibility. And for a lot of baby boomers, work is what defines their self-worth. So the big corner office, the big house and the car says to the rest of the world, I've made it. And that is a common feature of the way baby boomers will present themselves. I'm not, by the way, tarring every baby boomer with this same brush. It's just the way that the research indicates that how this group of people thinks, this generation thinks. Next up, you've got Generation X, born between the mid-60s and 1980. So in the workplace, they're kind of 40 to 55-ish right now. They're very independent. They're very entrepreneurial. They like balance in their life. They're happy to have flexibility in the workplace. They'll be loyal to companies who provide that to them. And they love personal development. Facebook was invented by someone from Generation X. In the UK, those people might have been termed as latchkey kids. That might have been part of their development as they grow up. The first generation where both parents would have been going out to work, and they will bring some of those attitudes into the workplace as well. Then, who else but the most maligned generation of them all, Generation Y, or the millennials, born between 1980 and 2000. So in the workplace right now, they're kind of 20 to 40 years old. They're optimistic, they're tech savvy, they're multimodal, they can work in lots of different ways. They love to be empowered. They love to be collaborating with other people. They love challenging work. It's important to them to have challenge. The worst thing a millennial can have is a dead-end job. And their way of thinking about the world is being shaped a little bit by 9/11, by the Arab Spring, and by the rise of big tech companies, the so-called FANGs. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before. Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. They are important influences on the way this generation thinks. And then right now in the workplace, we've got Generation Z just coming into the workplace, born between 2000 and 2015-ish. They're now up to 20, 21 years old, coming into the workplace. They want respect. They want to be trusted. They want to have a very tolerant workplace. They are quite happy with hybrid or remote working, so that's handy given what we've just been through. They like rapid progress. Okay, so they expect a meritocracy where if they do something good or they are good at something, they're going to move very quickly. And they want it right now because the society that they've grown up in is all about satisfaction. You want a movie, you can download it right now. You want food, it'll be delivered to your door in a second. If you want something from Amazon, it's going to arrive tomorrow. So their mindset also includes a lot of thinking about immediacy. And their thinking in the workplace is going to be shaped by coronavirus. It's going to be shaped by some of the global economic turmoil that's resulted from that. It might be the emergence of right-wing politics or Trump-type politics that would influence some of their thinking. They're bringing that into the workplace with them. So those are the generations. Generation Alpha comes next. We won't be seeing those in the workforce for another 10 to 15 years. But now you know what the generations are all about. You might be thinking to yourself as a leader, well, what do I do? How do I cope with this? What am I supposed to do as a leader? And I want to bring to your attention some research that was done not so long ago by a lady called Jennifer Deal. And Jennifer looked at the things that we've all got in common. So it doesn't matter what generation you're in, we've all got these things in common. And it's really important, I think, as a leader in a business, the owner of a business, to know these things. So surveyed across the generations, what Jennifer found was that everybody has family at the top of their list of priorities. No surprises there, really, but as a leader and a manager, you need to be aware of that. Everybody across all of those generations will put family before they put anything else. The second thing on the list was everybody wants respect, right? So nobody wants to come to a workplace where they're belittled or demeaned. They want to treat each other with respect. They want to be treated with respect by their managers. Everybody in this cohort, the entire workforce, believes that their leaders should be trustworthy. So your characteristics of honesty and integrity and maybe a good dash of transparency in there will help towards generating that kind of view of you as a leader. And despite popular beliefs, Jennifer found that actually nobody really likes change. So you might think that the younger people are more adaptable, more quickly to kind of shifting sands because they're seeing it all the time. Nobody really likes change. And for most people, when they hear about change, they're thinking to themselves, how's this going to impact me? Or perhaps slightly more mercenary, they'll be thinking, what's in it for me? What's going to happen as a result of this change? The fifth thing was really interesting. It was that when people show loyalty to companies, the main indicator of that is how many hours they work, not their age. So somebody who puts in a lot of hours for you in your business is likely to be more loyal to the business as a whole. And it's not really a factor of which generation they're in or how old they are. And then finally, number 6 in Jennifer's list was that everybody loves to learn. So that's a good thing, that everybody's looking to increase their skill levels and that everybody loves feedback. Now, feedback in a different way, maybe from different generations, but everybody wants to have some feedback so they understand how they go. So against that backdrop, what kind of challenges are you going to have as a leader? Well, you'd probably be thinking about what kind of style of leadership am I going to employ here? What kind of values does my company have to espouse to attract people from the different generations? What kind of working practices do I need to put in place? What kind of flexibility? And also, what kind of feedback systems do I need? Because if everybody wants feedback, all human beings want feedback, then I'm going to need to provide that in the right way to the workforce. The opportunities that you'll see will come from things like introducing coaching and mentoring into the business, getting some of the older generation to coach and mentor the younger generation, and vice versa, right? Don't shy away from the fact that somebody with a high level of technological skill who's still quite young can't teach the older generation something. So that's always important. And as a leader, you'll also want to have a nice, clear vision and a nice, clear focus on that vision in the workplace so that everybody sees what it is that they're working for. That also applies to everybody. And opportunities for personal development are always great. Every penny that you invest in your workforce is going to pay you back eventually. And was it Steve Jobs who was asked, what if we train up our people and they leave? And he said, what if we don't train them and they stay? Yeah, so personal development is going to be a really important part. Was it Steve Jobs? I think it was Steve Jobs. So finally, looking at the leadership stuff that you need to think about, we'll go to a Gallup poll from a few years ago that surveyed 50,000 businesses, 1.2 million employees in those businesses. And the question was, what makes a good leader? And what came out of that study was that the great leaders are not bosses, they're coaches. And the great leaders talk to their employees and get to know them really well and have really meaningful conversations with them, which is also something that you can learn from a coaching perspective. So let's move on to the 6 things I think as a leader that are really important for you. Number 1 on that list is awareness. Okay, so your ability in a coaching style of leadership to raise awareness in your workforce. So both individually and as teams, this is where we are. This is where we want to be. There is a gap between these 2 things. Raising awareness of that gap is really important in a workforce. The second thing is responsibility, getting that workforce, the managers and the teams and the individuals to accept responsibility for the position that they're in and their transition to the position that you want them to be in. So always in coaching, raise awareness, get people to accept responsibility is a really good way of approaching it. Number 3 is knowledge. You can't expect anybody who doesn't have the knowledge or skill to perform the way you want them to. So investing in that knowledge and skill is really, really important. Number 4, this is really important in my view, is interference. So when you look at yourself and think, well, what is it that's getting in the way? For this team or individual to reach their full potential, what am I going to need to remove in the form of interference? Now, that could be something simple like bad systems or processes. It could be a toxic team member and it's time for them to move on. Or it could be you. You could be standing in the way of your team making progress because of the way you manage that team or lead that team. So have a good look at that and get rid of that interference. And then the final 2 are around challenge and support. So challenging people and supporting people in equal measure is a good thing. You want to push people hard, but give them support when they need it. If you upset that equilibrium and there's too much challenge and not enough support, or too much support and not enough challenge, they'll become over-reliant on you, and that won't be a good way to go. So the challenge and support things work together to get a balance. As a leader in an organization with multiple generations in that workforce, then these 6 things are things that will work across all of those generations, and they are timeless, in my opinion, leadership principles. So we've gone for a little bit longer than we normally do, 12 minutes now, instead 14 minutes now instead of the normal 10 minutes. I hope that was useful for you. If it was and you've got any comments, then just drop them into LinkedIn for me. Give me a thumbs up to say that you've watched it so we know who's watching. And if you want to have a chat about your leadership in a multi-generational workplace, then again, just get in contact on LinkedIn and we'll sort that out. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week in Leadership Live number 20, but I'll see you at Wednesday, midday next week, as always. I'll see you then.